Good morning, my friends, fellow Brigaders. This is day 18 of the RPG Brigade's 31-day challenge for August 2017. Looking at my list of questions, which RPG have you played the most in your life? Well, this is kind of probably going to be short entry because, and I say it over and over and over again, it's Dungeons and Dragons. And it's not because I didn't own other game systems. Even at my youngest age, I did. We owned two or three, but we just didn't get the mileage out of them as we did D&D. And in some of my longest campaigns, I had one that ran better part of 5 years. I've had characters that lasted 5 years as a player, in part because we were young and we wanted them to survive. We didn't want to really challenge each other to the level and depth that we did as we got older. I want to say that I bought my first box set, the red basic set, in let's see, 76, 77. I was about 10, and I got shortly after I got the expert set, and we were using Greyhawk as the background. And then I started making my own, because that was the real big one of the big draws for gaming for me, was that world building ability to make your own, and your own little place to escape to. I grew up in a small town, Iowa, called Mitchellville, and it at the time had about 1,200 people. My family's property was was on the north side of town, right actually on the edge of town. Our backyard opened into the country. There was a cattle lot behind it. We had a natural playground for children with rolling hills and a small creek in the back, and barns and so on and so forth, plus all that property behind us to play around in, and the creek valley that followed all the way up to the north to the full of trees and beavers and what have you. So it was lots and lots of natural locations, and we played quite a bit outside, and we honed our. And I have to wonder, how much of this gaming did we do that carries over from our childhood experiences, and how we pretended to be things that we were not. We role played even as children, and we didn't recognize it. I'm going to jot that. I think that's worthy of a blog on its own. Anyway, how these things crop up. The second game system that I played the most was Star Wars. When West End Games first started bringing their game system out, I was an uber Star Wars fanatic when I was a kid, and I ate it, I breathed it. When everybody else started playing, when they were young, our parents and grandparents played Cowboys and Indians. Our earliest generation, our older brothers and sisters, those that had them, they played war. We played war. They were mimicking the World War I, World War II stuff that we kept seeing on TV. Even my friends and I did that to a limited degree. And then Star Wars came out, and boom, a lot of things changed for me anyway. So we no longer played war or Cowboys and Indians. We played Stormtroopers and Rebels or something to that effect. And then the game stuff came out. The gaming things, for good and for bad, changed a lot of stuff. While we still got out and still were a little bit active, the fact of the matter is we weren't as active as we had been in the physical sense, because when you've got yourself cooped up in a room somewhere with a set of books and playing on paper this fantasy setting that you used to reenact outside in the woods or in the fields and running around in the heat and humidity, well, I was always a chunky boy, and I never got out of that chunky stage even in high school, in part because I spent a lot of time at a table or sitting on the ground playing this stuff, and it is what it is. D&D was a huge portion of my life at that time. Split, like I said, with Star Wars. We did play Space Opera. We did play Traveler. We did play Gamma World. We did play Champions. A little bit of Heroes and Might. We never bought the Tunnel and Trolls and the Swords and Sorcery and the other split offs, because when in my world at that time, I looked at that stuff and said, well, it's D&D. I have it, so why buy more? I want to buy more of this, so I have more of this, instead of splitting it and trying to buy a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and a little bit of this. So at the time, I was flipping my pages, my dollars back and forth between supporting the Dungeons and Dragons and the Star Wars. And then in addition to that, like a lot of people, I bought the novels. I bought a lot of novels. I had almost all the Forgotten Realms. I still do have nearly all the Forgotten Realms novels that were produced out as of 2002. After that, not so much. The same with the Star Wars novels. And then they accelerated. Where back then you could get one or two novels a month in both. So I could go down to the bookstore, Barnes and Noble or B. Dalton's, every couple of weeks and buy 2 or 3 books. And then of course MechWarrior came out, and I was buying them too. And for me, that was additional source material. But that was my gaming fix for all those times when I couldn't get together with my friends, or I just didn't have a group. I'm in between groups and whatever. I could read the novels and still be immersed in the world that I craved to be in myself. There was a longing or a craving for this sort of thing that eats the back of our soul, and a lot of times we're not aware of that. Well, that there's almost another entry into itself. But like I said, when I played the most in my life was Dungeons and Dragons, and I've continued that ever since. Probably have to say, I've been gaming better part of 40 years now, 4 decades, and that's a scary thing. And the easily half of my gaming experience has got to do with Dungeons and Dragons in the first 3 versions, and well, the 4th version, if you ask. The original first D&D, original first AD&D that came out, plus the box sets prior to that. I did play and run 4.0 a couple times because it was what we had access to, and I wanted to see what it was. 5.0 came out 5 years ago. I don't own any of it. I've not played any of it. I got to read the core book one time, and I suppose if I had the resources, I'd have bought it too. What do you do, right? As it is now, my 3.5 system's not complete. There's still some missing core books and stuff, and I keep stumbling across things. And then you add that to the gaming, the Forgotten Realms world that is built for D&D. There's a slew of books that came out for it, and I have quite a few of the older stuff, but the newer stuff that came out for I don't know, from 3.5 or 4.0, I see them on the shelves in the bargain book section at JCD and Hobby, but have not yet, bought into them, because where do you start? And the truth is, I look at some of these, and basically it's a repackaged version of the fighter's handbook or the rogue's handbook or something like that. And while they've got good new change tweaks and updated stuff, I just can't justify the expenses. I don't know how that I changed some point in my lifetime, because there was a day when I'd spend $50 a week on my paycheck or more on this material. Now I spend $20, $30 tops a month, if that. I've actually gone several months without spending it, because we've got other priorities right now. And that is the way it works, right? And then there's a whole stretch of time where I didn't buy anything. Well, I did, but it was few and far in between, because frankly the books just get more and more expensive. I bought one of the last major purchases I bought for Dungeons and Dragons was the GM guide for 3.5. I didn't have it, and because I was still using 2.0 and 3.0 pretty heavily, and then I got to 3.5, or somebody else had it, and I looked at it and I go, okay, it's thicker, it's bigger, got a fancier cover, but it had a lot more good material. Sorry, like I said, these hours of mine just mess with my sleep. Always tired, even when I get 8 hours, always tired. We spent $50, $49.95 or something for that book. My friend and I did. We split it. It might have been a little less than that because I think we got a couple books. But I know we bought a new player handbook and we bought the core book. Darn it! And I think I helped pay for my friend. He wanted a supplement book for Magic or for Vampire the Masquerade, and he had the core book that I really became interested in the potential for storyline material there. But you know, it's coming eventually, I guess, when I find the time and a new group of people or the motivation. And right now, there's so many things going on in the world. It's all I can do to stay sane some days. I thank you for this stuff because it helps far more than you know. So there you go, Dungeons and Dragons. Of course, you know it's what it was when I was a kid. It was the thing. It was the big gorilla in the room, and it continued to be a poignant factor, an important piece of my gaming history and life, and may continue to do so for many more decades yet to come.